Britain's migration crisis has entered a new chapter. Under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the government has signaled a bold target: remove all asylum seeker hotel accommodations within the next 12 months. What looks like a simple housekeeping change is in fact a high-stakes political gamble, one that touches on national identity, public services, cost, security, and compassion. This is the story of how thousands of people housed in hotels became a symbol of wider tension and how the government says it will fix it. Stay with us as we unpack what's happening, why it matters, and what the consequences may be for communities across the UK. For years now, asylum seekers in the United Kingdom have been housed in hotels, often in towns and cities where local services are stretched and where residents feel disconnected from central decisions. Official figures show that by June 2025, over 32,000 asylum-seeking individuals were still in hotels. Critics say the system is expensive, inefficient, and unsustainable. Hotels were never meant as long-term accommodation, and the cost to the taxpayer has ballooned. It has sparked protests, local outrage, and political pressure. For many residents, the sight of large numbers of new arrivals in a hotel has become a flashpoint, a symbol of government failure to process claims, plan accommodation, and communicate effectively. Enter Keir Starmer. In recent announcements, the Prime Minister declared his ambition to end the use of hotels for asylum seekers within 12 months. In doing so, he set a firm deadline. The next year would see hotels replaced by other forms of accommodation. The message: the system that relies on rented rooms in upscale hotels must be replaced by something more secure, more manageable, and less visibly disruptive to local communities. Starmer and his ministers are under pressure to demonstrate action, not just words. And in this plan, they hope to tick those boxes. So how will this work in practice? The government has signaled that former military barracks, training camps, and modular accommodation may be used as replacements. One newspaper report noted that around 900 migrants will initially be moved into army sites at Cameron Barracks in Inverness and Crowborough Training Camp in East Sussex. The idea is to move from dispersed, costly hotel contracts to purpose-built or repurposed facilities theoretically cheaper, easier to secure, and more controllable. But these are not simple changes. Each relocation raises questions of cost, planning, community consent, and the rights of asylum seekers themselves. Changing accommodation is one thing. Changing the system behind it is another. Critics warn that focusing solely on hotels does not address the backlog of asylum claims, weak enforcement of removal orders, and the pressure on local housing and services. One expert argued the hotel move is a sleight of hand that doesn't solve the root problems. There are questions about the human rights of asylum seekers, the suitability of military-style housing, and the conditions in remote sites. For civil society organizations, the concern is simple. Is this about cost-cutting or about dignity and fairness in treatment? The government insists safety and welfare standards will be maintained, but legal challenges and protests may follow if implementation slips. Across the UK, local communities are wary. In towns where hotels accommodate asylum seekers, residents speak of sudden changes, lack of consultation, and rising tensions. As one sociologist notes, even when hotels are booked, the perception of somebody else being placed in your community can generate fear and resentment. Starmer's plan is meant to be responsive to these concerns, saying that accommodation must be appropriate, secure, managed, and agreed. Yet moving huge numbers out of hotels will mean new sites, new deals, and new protests. There is a clear political logic to this. Immigration and accommodation are top-ranked public concerns. Starmer's move is aimed at showing action and regaining public confidence. In Parliament, the Conservatives argue Labour failed previously. Now, Labour must prove its credentials. On the cost side, hotel placements have been extremely expensive. Moving to barracks or modular units could save taxpayer money, but only if executed well. The cost of failure? Further protests, legal cases, media backlash, and reputational damage. The cost of success? A more stable accommodation system and reduced local tension. Ambition is one thing. Delivery is another. First, relocating thousands of people in 12 months is logistically huge. Planning, procurement, site consent, legal checks, all this must happen fast. Second, asylum seekers waiting for decisions may still end up in limbo. If accommodation changes but claims don't, then hotels might still be used as temporary stopgaps. Third, community resistance and judicial injunctions could slow progress. Some councils have already sought legal action against hotel placements. And fourth, the big picture. If the root causes of arrivals, delayed removal and asylum processing are untouched, then accommodation changes may not deliver long-term relief. The hotel plan is one element of a wider migration strategy under Starmer. It sits alongside efforts to strike international asylum agreements, speed up removals, stop small boat crossings, and restore public trust. In that sense, the hotel exit is symbolic. It says this government is serious about reform. But symbols require substance. If this government can move from hotels to robust processing centers, and if it can process claims quickly, remove those who have no right to stay, and integrate those who do, then the optics will matter less than the outcomes. If it cannot, the hotel change will feel like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. 12 months. That's the timeline, the target, the deadline. If the UK still has thousands of asylum seekers in hotels after that, the promise will have failed. If it meets it, the migration system will have taken a major step in its evolution. But this is not just about buildings. It is about the values of Britain: fairness, security, compassion, responsibility. For Prime Minister Starmer, this moment is a test. A test of delivery, a test of trust, a test of leadership. And for Britain's towns and cities, it is a test of community, consent, and the country's capacity to adapt. The next 12 months will tell the story, and you'll be watching. Thank you for joining us. Stay informed, stay engaged.